Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name's Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Warrant Officer Nikolai Rofe. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. In particular, today, we warmly welcome veterans of the Korean War who are joining us, accompanied by Mr. Simon Lewis, Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs. We're honoured to acknowledge the Defence, Armament and Economic Session of the French Institute for Higher National Defence Studies, including Major General Daniel Argenson, Deputy Director of the Institute, and Professor Jean-Jacques Roche. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, War Hope Primary School. From Victoria, St Patrick's School, Mentone, Maffra College and Yarram Primary School. Also the Victorian Alpine Valleys Community Leadership Program Group. Australia's Federation Guard is a tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catapult party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. Could I ask you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem?
Party attention. Party present. Arms.
you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Captain Kenneth Hummerston. Kenneth John Hummerston was born on the 17th of May 1916 in Brighton, Victoria, to John and Kathleen Hummerston. He grew up in the Melbourne suburb of Armidale and attended the local schools, gaining his intermediate and leaving certificates. By the time the Second World War began, he was working as a wholesale hardware salesman. Hummerston enlisted for service in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force at Coalfield on the 2nd of July 1940. After his initial training, he was posted to the 2nd of 22nd Battalion and was promoted to corporal shortly afterwards in August. In April 1941, the 2nd of 22nd Battalion sailed from Sydney bound for Rabaul, New Britain, where it formed the nucleus of Lark Force. On the 23rd of January 1942, the Japanese invaded New Britain. Despite a spirited defence, Lark Force disintegrated. Hummerston was one of around 300 men who managed to evade capture, escape the island and return to Australia. In May 1942, Hummerston, now back in Victoria, was hospitalised with malaria. He spent much of the next 12 months in hospital and recovering. On his release, he transferred to the staff of the 107th Convalescent Depot and was posted to a course for Army educators. He completed the course in March 1942 and was recommended for a commission. Hummerston returned to New Guinea in September and was posted to Headquarters, New Guinea Forces as an education officer. In early 1945, he transferred to New Britain to be able to use his knowledge acquired early in the war to assist the Australians fighting there. He also felt that he had some unfinished business. In July 1944, Hummerston was commissioned with the rank of lieutenant. When the war ended, he remained in the Army, returning to Victoria where he continued to work for Army education. In January 1947, Hummerston was posted to Japan, where he joined the staff of the 130th Australian General Hospital at Kourei. It was during this posting he met Lieutenant Nancy Holmes, a nurse and Second World War veteran. Over time, the couple began a relationship. In early 1949, Hummerston was posted to Headquarters, 34 Brigade. He was promoted temporarily to captain in May, and for a time, the aide-de-camp to Lieutenant General Horace Robertson. He returned to Australia on leave in December and in early January transferred to the 3rd Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment. He attended a junior officer's tactical course at the School of Infantry at Seymour before returning to Japan in April. On the 25th of June 1950, North Korean forces crossed the 38th parallel and began the Korean War. 3RAR was put on alert in Japan, but was not committed to the war until the 26th of July. The battalion, which was seriously under strength, had to build up to a war footing very quickly. Hummerston, who had been promoted to captain in early July, was posted as second in command to Charlie Company. He and Nancy Holmes were married on the 19th of August, but the preparations for war put paid to any chance of a honeymoon. 3RAR left Kourei on the 27th of September and arrived at Busan the following day, becoming part of the 27th British Infantry Brigade. With the UN landing at Incheon and the breakout from the Busan perimeter, 3RAR was tasked with patrolling the Sunggui Waigwan area, looking for North Korean troops that had been cut off during the UN advance. 3RAR began patrolling on the 2nd of October. The next day, at around 2 p.m, Charlie Company was patrolling south of Waigwan. Hummerston and several other men had been assigned to a local Patton 2 Alpha carrier, driven by Private Ken Sketchley, which left the main road to investigate a dirt track. Unbeknownst to the Australians, the area had been heavily mined. Soon after leaving the road, the carrier detonated a Russian anti-tank mine. The ensuing explosion overturned the vehicle, which triggered several more landmines. Private Sketchley, aged 20, and Captain Hummerston, who was 34, were killed instantly. They were the first fatalities suffered by 3RAR in Korea. Both Sketchley and Hummerston were laid to rest in a temporary cemetery at Taegu. But following the creation of the United Nations Cemetery at Busan, their remains were reinterred there. Nancy never remarried and always mourned her fallen husband. She returned to her native Tasmania, where she devoted her life to looking after veterans and was later recognised with the Order of Australia. Before her death, in 2009, Nancy requested that her ashes be interred with her husband in Busan. Her request was granted, and in April 2010, in a moving ceremony, Ken and Nancy were finally reunited. Kenneth Hummerston's name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my left. Among the 340 soldiers, sailors and airmen who died as a result of their service during the Korean War. This is one but many of the many stories of service and sacrifice told at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Captain Kenneth John Hummerston, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow no old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Party present. Arms. Shoulder, arms.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Party outwards. Turn. Party. Oi. Arch.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you a very good evening. Thank you.